Hey you guys, welcome back to Lisa and Company and our mega Valentine's video. Today we are doing 20 of my all-time favorite Valentine's DIYs. So get comfy and let's get started. If you love budget-friendly DIY design and decor, consider hitting that subscribe button so you'll always know when we've uploaded a video. One of my favorite ever Valentine's projects was this Valentine's heart pillow I made for Izzy's bedroom. It is so easy. I use the IKEA covers. They're called Girly, G-U-R-L-I, and I'm taking a piece of dollar store contact paper and cutting out a heart old school like we did way back when we were kids. I'm gonna figure out where I want that on the pillow and stick it down. Then, using some fabric medium and whatever color paint you want, I used 2 different shades of pink and white. You're gonna mix it according to the package instructions, and then I'm gonna use a Q-tip to create this beautiful design. You can put your paint down whatever order you decide, but because I had a dark gray pillow cover, I decided to do the white first and do the most in white to create a base for my other 2 colors that would follow. Just have fun with this. You cannot possibly mess this up. If you love a good paint reveal, then get ready because this is so incredibly satisfying. Look at that perfect heart. I absolutely adore this pillow. I absolutely love pulling it out every year for Valentine's Day for just a little love in the house. This simple sign starts with a table leaf, believe it or not. I like to grab these from my Habitat for Humanity restore. They usually have a stack of them in one corner. Believe it or not, some people just don't want the extra leaves that go along with their tables. So I sometimes use them full size, sometimes I trim them down. This one I started by giving it a coat of white Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and then I made this really simple decal on my Cricut. And you know what? This is just sort of one of those family philosophies. I think every once in a while we all need to be reminded that love is all around you. Love is in your home. Your home is where your love is. Did I overstate that a little bit? You guys get the idea. To finish this sign off, I'm just using a little bit of my black and white baker's twine and wrapping it around the top and the bottom of the sign. I added a sawtooth hanger to make it easy to hang up, but most of the time this sign just leans somewhere in the house. You've probably even seen it in the background on some of my other Valentine's videos. And you're done. A beautiful, simple sign that really you could leave up year-round. Now don't blink or this super quick, cheap, and easy will be finished before you know it. All I have is a piece of glass from a Dollar Tree frame that I used in another project. And I just left this glass sitting on my craft table and finally decided on something to do with it. Now the edges are sharp and the glass is thin, so I used the roughest side of my sanding block just to take the edges off a little bit. Now I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue to attach some Jenga blocks and essentially make a stand for this. Once we have a base, I am going to dump out these pink buttons that I picked up at a dollar store, and we're going to create a heart. And this was so much fun. This would be a great project to do with the kids. Just be careful with the glass, or do it on a different kind of surface. I just thought this would be super pretty sitting perhaps on a tiered tray or somewhere on a shelf. For this one, I'm using my Cricut to create a double layered decal for a really fun project for Izzy. She loves hot tea. So I picked this up at Dollar Tree, and one side was a little bit damaged, so it was absolutely perfect for this project. So I'm going to create a heart to cover the decal that was already there, and then we're going to layer that up with a little saying that I thought was perfect for her. I had actually seen this phrase on a coffee cup, and it just screamed Izzy, except with tea in place of coffee. This would be a really great gift. It would be something fun to make for a friend or a coworker, or let's face it, for you. I mean, the possibilities are endless with these Dollar Tree tumblers and your Cricut. But don't forget, you could use Dollar Tree letters, rub-ons. There are so many different ways you could do this. You're cute and all, but I'm not sharing my tea with you. This DIY started with a Dollar Tree box frame getting a paint job in gray. Now we're missing the part where I add the free printable inside that box frame, but I'll be sure to link that video down below. To do this heart, I actually found this page that says love in a secondhand book, and I loved the cloud pattern with the simple word love over top of it. So I decoupaged that onto a Dollar Tree wooden heart using my glue stick. Then, to make sure it has a really great finish on the edge, I always use my sanding sponge to create a really great finish. Sanding from top to bottom, and it just gets rid of that paper perfectly. There is no other way to trim this off that works better. Now I'm going to add that to my painted frame, and this part will be finished. This frame was part of a trio, and next up we have the heart. Now I've already taken my Dollar Tree wooden heart and stained it using some watered down espresso colored paint. Now I'm going to put a little bit of the gray paint on it, same one that I used on the frame, but I'm not going to brush it all the way to the edges. I was looking to create almost like an aged effect where the paint had worn away around the edges. These are so much fun, and you cannot mess this up. If you put too much paint on it, you just have to sand it back a little bit. I made a little heart by twisting some of the Dollar Tree pip berries together and sticking them right on the front. Now we're going to do the same effect on the candle to complete this trio. I'm putting a little bit of paint on, and then we're going to twist some of those pip berries around it, glue them on the back, and you gotta love these super cheap, quick, and easy DIYs. They are just instant gratification. I just tacked it down in a couple of places with hot glue so I could make it sit exactly where I wanted it to. Then I'm gonna make a small bow with some Dollar Tree ribbon, same one that I used on the heart, and just create a little bow for the top of this candle. I just love the way this trio came together, and it's super simple, understated, neutral colors. This cute Dollar Tree tabletop sign came together so quickly and easily with just a few pieces. So I've had this one in my stash for ages, and I picked up the love sign when it showed up at Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to give it a quick sand down before I paint it, just because some of these signs are a little rough around the edges, if you know what I mean. My love sign was damaged a little bit, but I'm hoping when it's all painted up and I've done everything I plan to do to it that it'll be just fine. A quick coat of the Rust-Oleum white chalked paint, and this sign is going to be ready to be finished off. Now initially I was going to leave that pink on the bottom, but it was a little brighter than what I was going for, so I decided to put a coat of paint over that, and of course the back as well. Now to add that farmhouse feel as well as a little texture, I'm taking the little puffy stickers from Dollar Tree and adding them to the heart. I just love that beaded look, and I'm also hoping it's going to camouflage the damage on the heart. Now a coat of paint on that to make it all blend together, and it's going to have that beautiful farmhouse vibe. Well, I just loved how pretty that looked on the heart, so I decided to add them to the sign as well. You can't go wrong with these beautiful little stickers. They're so easy to paint over, and they add some much needed texture to something really simple like this tabletop sign. Now let's add a little bit of the white paint over these, and this part will be done. Now I'm sure this sign would look pretty with a little white on white, but I have another idea. Now I am going to give it a quick sand just to reveal some of the natural wood at the edges. Then I watered down this really pale pink paint, really watered it down, and I'm just going to add that to the L, the V, and the E. I am going to leave the heart white. I just love that sort of ballet slipper pink. It is so pretty. Glue it down, and just like that, we're finished another beautiful, simple Valentine's DIY that, although intended for Valentine's Day, would do no harm staying out the entire year and showing your family a little love. I truly love this DIY, and I actually keep it hanging in the studio all year round. All I did was take a wire hanger, trim it open at the top, and bend it and mess around with it until I had a heart shape. Then I simply strung my beads onto it, and I just manipulated the wire where I needed to as I went along. When I got to the top, I twisted it together, and then I used some ribbon to hide the very bad job I did twisting it together. Since I have done this project, I have thought of so many other things that I could have added to the top of this, but the bottom line is I just love how simple, how neutral. I just can't even tell you. It is one of my favorite DIYs of all time. So what I did do around the top is trim off the wire in the Dollar Tree burlap ribbon, and then I twisted that around the top of the hanger. I glued it a little bit at the bottom just so I could hold it in place, and then I just twisted and twisted. I was really just trying to disguise my poor job the way I did that at the top, and then I could get to some fun embellishments. So I ended up using this really pretty XOXO ribbon that I had in my stash from Dollar Tree. I mean, what could be more perfect for a beautiful beaded heart for Valentine's Day? I also really wanted to keep it neutral, so this was just perfect. I tied one piece around, and then I added a whole other piece for a bow because I wanted to have a double tail on it. Then I had these really pretty white roses from the dollar store, and I added one right on top of the bow and hung it up. What do you guys think of this one? I just love it. It's time to create a really simple heart-shaped Valentine's wreath. All you need for this one is a couple of the scarves from Dollar Tree, one of the heart-shaped wreaths, and whatever you've got for florals or greenery to finish it off. Starting at the point, we are simply going to glue that scarf down and wrap and wrap and wrap. And we're going to do that for one half of the heart. Then we're going to repeat that process with the other scarf for the other half of the heart. Now that that's finished, it's time to embellish the heart, and you can do that wherever you want on the heart using whatever you've got. I had a bunch of really pretty pink sprig flowers, some berries, and a bunch of roses, and I just messed around with it until I had what I thought was a really pleasing arrangement. I created one sprig and put it upright. Then I created a second one slightly smaller and put it opposite that one, and that would cover both of the ends. When I'm finished attaching all of those, I am going to add a really cute white bow, and it's the same ribbon that I'm going to use to top this off, and that hides any mess in the middle. Simply glue all this down and you are just about there. I made this little bow by wrapping this Dollar Tree ribbon several times around my fingers and adding some tails. And now I'm just going to glue it on to the wreath, add a hanger, and hang this up. Let's see what the finished product looks like. This one is so simple, so easy, and really only takes a few minutes. The best part is you can use whatever you have on hand to make it. Ready for another super quick, cheap, and easy? Well, here we go. I took a small Dollar Tree wood sticker, added some hot glue, and just pressed the Dollar Tree moss into it. Just watch your fingers, you know, it's so easy to burn yourself. Just keep adding the moss and trimming it off as you go. Then we are simply going to attach that to a piece of 2x4 that I cut into a perfect square shape, which is actually 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and this one is done. This is the perfect little addition to a tier tray or a shelf or pretty much anywhere in your home where you just want a cute little piece of Valentine's decor. These black canvases are actually old pieces of wall decor I picked up at the thrift store and painted with flat black paint. I use these all year in different parts of the house because they are essentially chalkboards on canvas. The texture is gorgeous and all you need is some chalk and you can create whatever you feel like. In this case, to go with the Valentine's decor, I am creating an X and an O, and all I'm doing is freehanding that on. Are you intimidated? Don't be, it's chalk. If it doesn't work out, wipe it off and start again, or move it to another part of the house with a totally different message. I hope you enjoy this one because this is just about as super cheap, quick, and easy as it gets. This DIY starts with a piece of a wooden fence post. I was lucky enough to get a whole bunch of these and I made some really fun DIYs with them. So first things first, it is rough. I am going to take my little mouse sander and I am basically going to sand the heck out of it. I simply used some dark brown paint and watered it down to create kind of a faux stain and brushed it on. I wanted to make sure I got it in all of the little crevices, and by watering it down, it does a beautiful job. Once that's dry, I'm going to use my white Rust-Oleum chalked paint and put a heavy dry brush coat on. I still want to see a little bit of the wood, but not much. I just want to have that little bit poking through, so just keep layering and layering and layering. Next, we're going to use these great Dollar Tree rub-on transfers, and we're going to create a cube that on 4 sides has just little sentimental things for Valentine's Day. You can pick whatever you want. You can use your Cricut if you choose to. I just happen to love these rub-on letters. They are so simple to use. You really can't go wrong. If you were wondering why I left the top blank, well, that's because we're going to decorate it with some greenery and a really pretty Dollar Tree rose. I'm going to start by taking, these are literally left over from other projects, and just putting them all the way around the top of the block. Then once those have all dried, we're going to add that really pretty rose, and this will be done. So simple, so pretty, and so easy to do. Time for another one of those Valentine's trios, starting with another box frame. But this time I painted the outside of it, and we're going to use one of the Dollar Tree wall decals to decorate it. I found this one, and even though it wasn't really meant for Valentine's, I thought it was perfect for Valentine's. But it's another one of those ones that really you could use all year round. I'm going to trim this decal down until I have it just right, and that's what I'm going to use on my box frame. The way that I make these decals blend in on top of that matte finish paint is simply to use my Mod Podge, and I use the matte finish and I brush it over the entire thing. That does two things. It makes sure that it's really well adhered, and it gives it a consistent sheen right across the surface. To coordinate, I'm going to take this heart that's already been painted black, and I'm using some scrapbook paper that I actually bought on Etsy and downloaded and printed myself. There are so many to choose from. You've got to hop onto Etsy and check it out. We're just going to use a little bit of Mod Podge on here to attach the paper, smooth it all out, and I'm going to do what I always do using my Dollar Tree sanding block. I am going to sand this off to get a really great edge. Simply sanding from top down, never go sideways, you will tear your paper, and always make sure your Mod Podge has thoroughly dried before you do this. Then add another layer of Mod Podge to seal it all together. For the candle in this trio, I've taken a piece of wire, and I'm going to wrap this really pretty ribbon greenery around it a couple of times until I'm happy that I have enough there and I've created myself a really cute little wreath. Then I'm going to take a scrap of that same scrapbook paper that I used on the heart, wrap it around my candle, glue it on, and attach the wreath to the front. I added a really simple black and white bow to the top of the wreath, and then I'm going to use some of my baker's twine and just wrap that around the top of the candle to finish it off. Apart from the fact that you guys know I love black and white decor, this one to me was perfect to leave out year round. I mean, a heart is a heart. It isn't just for Valentine's Day, is it? Beauty was inspired by a piece I saw in HomeSense for a ridiculous price. I took a Dollar Tree square vase and painted the inside of it with spray paint. All I did after that was pop a piece of floral foam inside, then use 2 bunches of Dollar Tree roses and put them in 3 rows of 3. It just came out absolutely perfectly. It looks like a really expensive piece of home decor, which in reality is another one of those ones you could use more than just for Valentine's Day. I've used this on my vanity. I've used this on a tiered tray. I've used this on an entryway table just as a little complement to some other pieces. It's time for another super quick, cheap, and easy DIY. All we need is one of the Dollar Tree holiday signs that you can get all year, as well as this love decal. Now we're going to take out that ribbon, but we're not even going to fill the holes on this one, and you'll see why when we're finished. All right, I do give it a quick sand, and then I'm just going to give it a coat of my usual white chalked paint from Rust-Oleum, and then when that is dry, we're going to go at it with the decal. I just love the way they worked the word love into the infinity symbol on this decal. It is so pretty and so meaningful. We are just going to take that off and place it right in the middle of the sign. Make sure when you press it down that you get out any air bubbles, and I just use my hand to do that. I don't use any kind of scraper. Then I am going to use that foam brush just with the paint that was already on it, just to blend in that decal into my sign a little bit better. To finish off those ends and to hide the holes that we didn't fill in, I'm going to use the black and white baker's twine and just wrap it around both ends of the sign, attaching it with some hot glue. This DIY isn't just super quick, cheap, and easy. This is like a lazy girl DIY. So what do you think? Does this inspire you to make a really simple sign for your home? This trash to treasure was in terrible shape when I found it. The paint and the plaster were chipped. It was just a mess. But I thought it was beautiful and I knew I could give it a little love. So first things first, I went in and I sanded down all the really rough parts before I gave it a coat of the white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. Once that was dry and I had a fresh surface to work with, I needed to add the definition back in. So I used this stain and finishing oil in driftwood, and essentially I just used it to highlight the texture that was already there, and I went back and forth using the stain and finishing oil, adding a little bit more white paint if I thought I had put too much of the darker color on, and back and forth and back and forth. You guys, if you've been with me for a while, you know I love texture, so it was really important to me that I found just the right mix of the white paint and the finishing oil. Then, to make sure the heart stood out, I just kept going back with a little bit of white paint at a time to make sure that you could really see that the heart was the focal point of this piece. One of the hardest parts for me when I'm working on a piece like this is knowing when to stop. And I know I always tell you guys, it's just paint. You can always paint over it. But I was really trying to find the fine line with this piece, with creating texture and definition without overdoing it. And what do you think? Because I absolutely love this one. One of the things I love is using cabinet doors from the Restore for projects. They make such a great base and they are so inexpensive. I found this beautiful wood door and simply took off all the hardware before I gave it a really heavy dry brush coat with my white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. This piece was so much fun for me to work on. We are going to be doing some string art. So once this piece was dry, we are going to take a heart shape, simply cut out just like you would when you were in elementary school with a folded piece of paper, and then we're going to get started with the nails. Just tape your heart down so it doesn't move around, and then using some small finishing nails, and that depends on the thickness of your piece, you're going to hammer them in about 1/2 inch apart all the way around the heart. Simply peel the heart out when you're finished, and then we're going to get started with the string. Start by tying off one of the nails in an inconspicuous spot. I didn't use the point of the heart or the top where the two bumps come together. I did it just off to the side because I really didn't want it to show. Now I'm using what my mom would call crochet cotton for this. I picked it up at the thrift store as well, which you can use any thin string or yarn, whatever you've got in your stash or whatever you can get your hands on. Then start having some fun. There really isn't any instructions for this. You want to go back and forth and all over the place. The most important thing you need to know is you really want to fill up your shape. So if you see an empty spot starting to develop, just make sure you take a couple of passes past that to fill it in. When you're satisfied that you filled in your shape enough, I like to go around and push down on all of the threads where they meet the nails, just to make sure that I have room for the next step. And then what you're going to do is create a border, and you simply start at one nail, tying it off just like we did when we started, and you loop around and you go back, and you loop around the next nail and you go back. It's a lot easier to see than explain. And that's it. You have a beautiful piece of Valentine's decor for anywhere in your home, and you can apply this technique to anything for any season. For this one, we're going to take a couple of Dollar Tree frames, and I really love the shape of these ones, and a couple of printables that I created in Canva. These are linked in the original video, and I'll make sure that video is linked down below. All you have to do is make these to the size of your frame, pop them in, and believe it or not, yes, you're finished. I am a true believer that people come into your life for a reason, and I think we can all agree that we wish we'd met those people sooner. Dollar Tree gets so many great pieces for home decor, and I had started working on this one before I found this really pretty heart. So completely changed directions and decided to incorporate this in a really great project. So first things first, I sanded off a bunch of that glitter, and then we're just going to give it a coat of white paint to start fresh and have a really great base to work from. Once that was dry, I took some pink paint from Dollar Tree and started to brush it on. I knew this color was going to be a little brighter than what I wanted, so you can see I just put it on in certain areas. Then with the paintbrush from my white paint, I started to mix in the white and blend the pink and the white until I had just the color I was looking for. I made sure I did the same thing on the edges so that it looked complete and finished all the way around. Now, because I had already planned to use these letters and the little Dollar Tree box sign for a different project, I had them all painted and ready to go. So once I arranged them on that piece, all I had to do was use my hot glue and some E6000 to attach them to the box sign. This piece came together so quickly and so easily, and my goodness, it was so pretty and satisfying. It's funny how sometimes you start with one idea and you switch gears and it becomes something completely different and you love it even more. This fun trash to treasure is good for any family game night, and actually started with this box from the Habitat for Humanity restore. I'm going to create, using these little wooden blocks that I cut off of 2x3s and sanded the heck out of them, I am going to make a game of X's and O's, and this box is going to be where we store the blocks. So I'm going to head out to the garage and get that started, and then we're going to come back and get this all painted. First up, with my scraper, I am going to go along and scrape off this CR for Crown Royal off the top of the box, and it came off really easily. Then using my mini screwdriver set, I'm going to take all the hardware off the box just to make it easier for painting. A quick sand just to scuff up the shiny surface, then I'm going to tape off the glass on the box and I'm going to give this a couple of coats of the white chalked paint. Once that paint is dry, I will give it a light sand just to get rid of any uneven spots, and I find it burnishes the paint just beautifully. I've sanded these blocks until all 6 sides are smooth and nothing like the rough lumber that they started as. Then, just like I have done in so many other projects, I'm using some watered down brown paint to create a faux stain. I did end up using a couple of different coats to make sure I had the color I was looking for. Then, using my Cricut, I created these X's and O's in almost a Ray Dunn type font and then added them onto my blocks, and yup, my game is just about finished. To make sure this family favorite would stand the test of time, I did seal it with Mod Podge on every block. And yep, see that one that didn't get finished on the bottom? It's still like that today, and yep, they still mock me for it. But that's okay, that's what family's for. This game has been part of our family for over 2 years now, and it lives right on the ottoman in the living room where we can pop it open and play whenever we feel like it. For the last in the trio, we've got some more traditional Valentine's Day colors. First things we're going to do is take this wooden heart from Dollar Tree and we're going to decoupage a pink and white gingham napkin, also from Dollar Tree, on top. Now you guys have seen me do this many times before. The key is be very gentle, tap, don't drag, and then I like to really wet the edges and just pull the napkin gently away. We're going to use that piece on the box frame, but first things first, it's already painted white, and now I'm going to take this piece of rub-on transfer and we are just going to cut an entire section to fit within this 6x6 frame. So I kind of looked it over to make sure I was getting the best of the words that I wanted to use, and then I'm just going to trim it off and pop it right in there. Now I used a pencil to put this down, but you can use your fingertip, you could use a scraper, some kind of gift or credit card. There's so many ways to put these down, and the Dollar Tree ones are really easy to transfer. I'm actually going to take a couple of Jenga blocks and put them right on the back of the heart, so when we put this down on top of the transfer inside the box, it'll be raised up just a little bit. I love the way that looks, and you can actually see a little bit more of that transfer. Now, next up, I have these letter stickers that actually come from the stationery section of Dollar Tree, and we're just going to put an XO right on top of here, and I've got a little bit of white paint left on my brush from painting this frame and some other things, and I'm just going to dry brush that right across the top of the heart as well as across that XO, just to tone down the black a little bit. For the heart in this trio, it's already been painted white, and I'm going to take some pink and white baker's twine from Dollar Tree and just wrap it around a couple of times. Now, because of the shape of the heart, it's a good idea to put just a couple of tiny drops of glue to help it stay in place. Once I have that on there, I'm going to thread one of those really pretty pink buttons through it for a little bit of decoration right on the front. For the candle in this trio, I'm going to use some of the pink burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree and put it right around the bottom of the candle. Then, using some of the pink gingham ribbon, I'm going to put that in 2 places, right around that pink burlap as well as at the top of the candle, right where the wax ends. Now, I wanted to do something a little different on this one, so I took one of those galvanized letters, words that say love. I tied a little bit of the pink and white baker's twine on, and to make sure it stayed where I wanted it, I put just a couple of drops of hot glue while I attached it with the baker's twine, and this one is done too. I'm really happy with the way this trio came together, a little bit more traditional, but of the three, I'm sure you could find one that you could redo for your home's decor. That's a wrap for me today, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed these 20 Valentine's DIYs. Make sure you head down to the comments and let me know which ones were your favorites. Here's a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy, and until then, we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.